Amphibious assault. That's the environment for the Cobra gunships of the Marine Corps, the AH-1J and the AH-1T. The Cobras have a variety of missions throughout the amphibious operation. Escorting the transport helicopters during the ship-to-shore movement. Supporting their landings with suppressive fires. Escorting and scouting for marine armor ashore. Helping to control supporting arms. Marking targets and attacking enemy armor with a multitude of weapons. The AH-1J and T are virtually identical, except that the T is a tow Cobra, able to fire the tow missile. There are also minor differences in maneuvering ability. Cobras operate in two planed sections wherever possible, for greater firepower and mutual protection. Maneuverability, agility, and small size make them difficult targets for enemy fire. This is an all-weather helicopter with IFR flight capability. It can operate at high altitudes if necessary, up to 10,000 feet. It's fast for a helicopter. Maximum speed in a dive with full ordnance load is 170 knots. The Cobra's prime operating area, however, is close to the deck where it's onto an enemy and past before he knows it's there. Cruise speed is 140 knots with a mission radius of 100 nautical miles. Visibility is unobstructed from the front seat, where the co-pilot usually rides. Both pilot and co-pilot are protected by armor plate and wear bulletproof vests. All Cobras carry 3-barrel 20mm Gatling guns with 750-round magazines. Rate of fire is 650 to 750 rounds per minute. This unusual weapon can be locked for the pilot to fire dead ahead, like a fighter plane. Or it can be trained, depressed, and elevated, fired from a remotely controlled turret by the co-pilot using a telescopic sight unit. The gun can be trained to 110 degrees either side of center, with the wide angles of fire plus excellent crew visibility, giving the Cobra fast response to threats from any direction. It can be depressed 50 degrees and elevated 15 degrees. Along with the 20mm Gatling gun, there is a choice of other ordnance. The Cobra can carry up to 52 high explosive and white phosphorus rockets in 4 pods, with 1 7-shot pod and 1 for 19 rockets on each side. The tow Cobra can substitute 4 tow missiles for one of the rocket pods on each side, carrying 8 tows in all. Other combinations are possible, depending on the demands of the mission. Here is some of the available ordnance. Gun pods with additional Gatling guns firing forward only. Fuel air explosives and flare canisters, each with 8 flares, fired in pairs. The Cobra carries a lot of firepower, but if it's loaded with everything it can hold, fuel quantity has to be reduced. Normal procedure is to carry enough fuel for the mission, plus an ordnance configuration tailored to the job at hand. The Cobra's versatility makes it an integral part of the amphibious assault, another weapon in the Marine arsenal. It becomes the eyes of the armored columns. It escorts and defends troop-carrying helicopters. It serves as a spotter for naval gunfire and artillery. It can mark targets for attack aircraft and control all types of close air support. Like all these systems, the Cobra exists to work with the ground troops. It is a tool of the landing force commander, assigned to the support of his units at any level, equipped for constant communication with command posts below, so that it can respond to changing needs as the situation develops. The Cobra's first mission in the amphibious assault is usually escort of helicopters carrying assault troops. At least 2 Cobras are normally used, deployed according to the expected threat and the terrain. In this case, the enemy threat is frontal, so the gunships lead the flight. The Cobras may fly behind if the threat is from the rear, as it often is on returning from the landing zone to the ships. If the enemy is believed to be a threat from all sides, the escorts may change their deployment constantly throughout the flight, but always in planned patterns. Station keeping and attention to schedules are vital during the ship-to-shore movement, when naval gunfire and supporting aircraft may be walking the flight in, laying down fires just ahead. Terrain is used wherever possible to mask the movement of the flight. The Cobras shift position as required by the terrain and by expected opposition. The escorts must be ready to drive off enemy helicopters, but must not leave the flight to pursue an enemy. The Cobras return any fire which could be a danger to the flight, but only long enough to distract the enemy from the transports. While the Cobras engage the enemy, the transports have a chance to get by without damage. At the landing zone, the lead Cobra pulls away from the flight and makes passes over the LZ to see if it's hot. The Cobra may fire 20-millimeter shells or drop fuel air explosives to detonate booby traps and flush out defenders. As the transports approach, the gunships move to their second major task, support of the helicopter landings, with landing zone suppression fire. The troops and the transports are most vulnerable during offloading. The Cobras go into a protective pattern above the LZ, usually a butterfly, firing at any targets which could threaten the landing. The attack helicopters may break their pattern to respond to calls from the ground commander for strikes against specific targets around the LZ. The Cobra's job here is protection of the landing. They fly their protective patterns as long as the transports are on the ground, then normally escort them back to the beach unless the ground troops are in trouble and need their support. The return flight always takes a different route. If the area below is hot, supporting fires may walk the flight back to friendly territory. Again, the Cobras shift deployment as needed to guard against the most likely threat. The escort mission usually ends at the beach. Now, let's look at other Cobra missions as the amphibious assault proceeds. The Cobras pick up a Marine armored column. Escort and scouting for service convoys is another of their jobs. The attack helicopters have standard escort patterns for ground units, just as they do for transport helicopters. If the surface unit comes under enemy attack, Cobras respond with suppressive fire to allow the ground unit to get by, or to cover it as it turns back. The ground commander may ask the gunship to scout ahead of the convoy, conducting reconnaissance by observation or by fire. The Cobras often shoot into suspected defensive positions to draw fire and reveal the enemy. If an enemy position is discovered blocking a route of advance, the ground commander may ask the Cobras to search for an alternate, less well-defended attack route. The task here is to help the ground commander conduct his attack effectively. The Cobras become the eyes and ears of the armored column, expanding its field of view. The Cobra pilot can drop in on a ground commander to discuss a complex situation. This is called a Zippo brief. The ground commander has a set form for the brief. He is able to give the pilots only the information they need for the mission in organized fashion. In this case, the Cobra is to mark a target for jet attack. High-performance jets are unable to slow down to consult maps and pick out targets. A Cobra can sneak out of concealment nearby and mark the target with white phosphorus. Or he can stand off 4,000 meters and lob his Willie Pete rocket onto the target. And stay there to control the mission, advising the jet pilot by radio that the marker is on target for a specified distance off. The Cobra can coordinate supporting fires, popping up from concealment to observe a situation. Most Cobra pilots have completed schools for both artillery and naval gunfire coordination, and can also serve as forward air controllers. In addition to radio contact, Cobra pilots can land at artillery positions for first-hand planning or for passing on of missions. Even though this Cobra is coordinating supporting arms, it carries a variety of ordnance to be ready for any mission assigned. When a Cobra pops up from concealment, it may be for more than observation or control of supporting arms. It may be for direct attack on enemy armor. The tow Cobra can be a deadly killer. Two Cobras lie in wait. Their primary targets are anti-aircraft vehicles and tanks, then armored personnel carriers. One Cobra pops up. The other remains hidden. The lead Cobra pinpoints the target location after a quick look, and the co-pilot passes the information to his teammates. The second aircraft then pops up at a different location, and it fires. After firing, both Cobras take evasive action and move on to the next attack position. An attack on enemy armor may also involve two other Cobras further from the target to divert the enemy's attention and furnish protection for the attacking Cobras. An attack is often coordinated with diversionary raids by other supporting arms as well. Cobras begin to engage with tow when enemy armor gets within 3,000 meters or so of the FIBA, while the enemy is still occupied with other attacking elements. Stop him, turn him around, or at the very least drive his troops out of the armored carriers and into the open, where they are slow and vulnerable. That's the object of a tow attack on enemy armor. Those are the tasks of the Cobra in an amphibious operation. Success depends on the aircraft's ability to operate from many types of amphibious ships, and on those ships maintaining a supply of parts and ordnance to support the Cobra mission. Many tasks depend on the Cobra's ability to operate after dark and in reduced visibility, with all aircraft IFR equipped and their pilots fully qualified. Cobra squadrons are ready for immediate deployment at any time, with aircraft, spare parts, ordnance, and all gear ready and marked for embarkation. Cobra squadrons spend about a third of their time aboard ships or at bases away from home. The squadron is in constant training to upgrade proficiency and combat readiness for both people and equipment. It's a long road to combat qualification for a Cobra pilot. It has to be to prepare him for the variety of tasks given to a Cobra squadron. The normal road runs directly from college to officer candidate school for 10 weeks. Then to basic school for 6 months or so of air and ground tactics. And on to flight school for a year to 18 months, first in fixed wing aircraft and then in helicopters. When he gets his wings, he has about 200 hours of flight time, and he's been in school and training for at least 2 years, without counting college time. When the new pilot reports to his squadron, he's usually looking at still another year of training to be combat qualified. On escort duty, scouting for an armored column, working with high-performance jets, attacking enemy armor on its own, the Cobra has carved its own niche in the arsenal for amphibious assault. Today, it is an almost indispensable weapon to the Marine Corps.